Okay, hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we're going to look at EC2 and key pairs, and this is part 2. So specifically in this lecture, what we're going to do is we're going to go into EC2, we're going to delete our key pair, even though our EC2 instance is still running and is still using it. We're going to see how that affects the instance metadata, and also whether or not it's actually going to go in and delete our public key on our EC2 instance. Will we still be able to even access this EC2 instance? So this is a lab and we will need to log into the AWS console. Okay, so I'm logged into the AWS console. I'm going to click on EC2. I'm going to go into my key pairs. I've actually got 4 key pairs here right now. The key pair that I use to connect to this is my EC2 key pair. And just to double check that, I'll just click on my instance and have a look at it. So if I scroll down, I should be able to see it down here. So my EC2 key pair, you can see it right there. So I'm going to go back to my key pairs and I'm going to go ahead and delete that key pair. So go in here, go ahead and hit delete and hit delete. So that has now gone. I do not have that key pair in the AWS console anymore. Can I still log into my EC2 instance? Well, let's go ahead and have a look. So I'm just going to go grab the public IP address and paste it into my, copy it into my clipboard. And now I'm going to go over to terminal. Okay, so I'm in terminal and I'm typing in SSH EC2-user at public IP address, and then I'm using my private key. And yep, there we go. So it doesn't, when you delete it in the console, it doesn't go into EC2 and go in and delete that public key. So that is not affected. It won't affect your EC2 instances. If we go ahead and just let's elevate our privileges to root and clear the screen, let's go ahead and have a look at the instance metadata. So we've got curl, then HTTP, and then it's 169.254.169.254 / and then latest, and then / meta-data, and then / and hit enter. So we want our public keys. So then it was, just go back, data, and then / public, and then -keys. And then I do remember it was 0, and then / and then I can't quite remember, it was open SSH -key. So open SSH -key, and then /. So it still also has inside the instance metadata the public key. So nothing has changed in the instance metadata. Nothing has changed in our .ssh. We can actually, again, just double check that by going into our .ssh and catting our authorized keys. We can see our authorized keys are both in here. So I'm back in the AWS console. If I scroll down, I can actually see in here the key pair name is still my EC2 key pair, but I don't actually have that anymore. It's been deleted. So how would I add a new public key to this? Is there any way I could do that? Well, let's go over to actions, and we're going to go ahead and create an AMI of this EC2 instance. So I'm going to call it my EC2 clone, and the image description is the same. So my EC2 clone. Going to leave everything else as default and go ahead and create this image. So that has created an image receive request. You can see my SSH window being unhappy because I've lost my SSH session. As you know, images are going to take a few minutes. You can see it in here. It is pending. So I'm just going to pause the video and wait for this to come back up online. Okay, so that image is now available, my EC2 clone. I might just go in and deregister these other ones just to make it a little bit easier for everyone. I've gone in and done that, but it does take a little bit of time for the UI to update. So I've got my EC clone in here. Now, what I can do is I can actually go and launch that. I can launch that as a T2 micro, go ahead and configure our instance details. I'm going to go in, add my storage. In fact, I'll just go back just in case I need S3 admin access. I will add that in, but I'm going to go ahead and add everything else. This one, I'm going to call it my EC2 clone and put that in there. And sorry, again, I've done this. I should type name first. So name, and then paste it in here. And I'm going to go in and add my security group. So I'm going to add my existing security group, which is my WebDMZ. Go ahead and hit review and launch and launch. And now what I'm going to do is create a new key pair. And I'm going to just call it my EC2 new, and then key pair. and I'm going to go in and download that. So we can see the private key has been downloaded down there. And then I'm going to go ahead and launch this instance. Now, what I'm actually interested in seeing is this is we've taken an AMI and we're launching it as a new instance entirely. But I want to know what's happened to my other public key, the one that I added to this AMI. Will it be appended on there, or will the entire authorized keys file be completely overwritten? So what we'll do is we'll wait for this instance to come up and we'll see if we can connect to it. Okay, so I've got a couple of tabs open. So this one here is our original EC2 instance, the one that we were doing all the work on before. This is going to be our brand new one. So the first thing I need to do is go in and chmod 400. Now it's called my EC2 and then new keypair.pem. Windows users, you won't have to do that. You need to go into Putty Keygen and then generate a PPK file. Don't get caught out when it looks for just .ppks. Make sure you hit all files, as we saw earlier on. And so now what we want to do is type in SSH EC2 user and then and then the public IP address, which was 54, etc., and then and then the name of it. So it was my EC2 new kp.pem. Going to hit enter. First time I'm connecting, so I'm going to hit yes, sudo su, and I'm going to clear the screen. So now if I go into my SSH directory, we're going to be able to see our authorized keys. If we go ahead and cat our authorized keys, we can see that there's a bunch of different keys in there. So let's go scroll up and have a look at one. So we've got my EC2 KP. We then have our root key pair, and we now have our my EC2 new key pair. So essentially what it's done is it's kept this authorized keys file intact, and it's just appended a new key to the file. So it hasn't deleted any of our other keys. So we're still able to connect in using the old private key and this new private key that we generated in the last lecture as well. And then we're also now able to connect in using a brand new private key that we generated when we created this image. So that's very useful to know in case you, if you're having issues with your keys and you can't, you've lost your private key, for example, but you need your you need access to your EC2 instance. All you need to do is go ahead and take a snapshot of that EC2 instance and then re-provision it, and then you'll be able to log in using the new public key and private key you created. Now, what we can do just to clean this up a little bit is we can go nano authorized keys, and we can go through and to delete these two lines, and that will delete the two other public keys, meaning the only key pair that we can use is the ones that we just created. That is an option as well. So that is it for SSH. Let's go and have a little bit of a review as to what we've learned. Okay, so what are my exam tips? Well, you can view the public key in a couple of ways, simply by going over to the home ec2user.ssh directory, and then by opening up the authorized key file. You can also view it by using the EC2 instance metadata, and you call that just using the curl command, and then http 169.254.169.254/latest/metadata/public keys /0/open/SSH-key. And then you can also have multiple public keys attached to an EC2 instance. You can also, and we didn't really cover this in the lab, but we could have multiple users who have different public keys and private key pairs. So you can connect in that way. Also definitely very possible. And for some of you who may not have touched AWS for some time, you can now add roles to existing EC2 instances. You no longer have to, terminate the instance and create a new instance with a role attached. You can just go ahead and add a role immediately. Also, we learned that deleting a key pair in the console will not delete it from the instance or the instance's metadata. If you lose a key pair, public or private, you simply just take a snapshot of the EC2 instance and then deploy it as a new instance. This will then append a new public key to that directory, so /home /EC2 user /SSH, and then to the authorized keys file. And then you can then basically go into that file and delete the outdated public keys that you no longer need. And then finally, because you cannot export keys from KMS, and because Amazon is involved in the actual generation of the keys inside KMS, you cannot use KMS with SSH for EC2. However, what you can do is you can use Cloud HSM. The reason for that is you can export keys from Cloud HSM and then go load them into your EC2 instances. And we are going to do that in the next section of the course. So that is it for this lecture, guys. In the next lecture, what we're going to have a look at is the AWS Marketplace and what security products are available for us. So if you've got the time, join me in the next lecture. Thank you.